You know, as I was working on this sermon, I remembered this story, and I think it was from a C.S. Lewis book or an article, and it was called The Tool Shed. You know, I was saying C.S. Lewis in an article was called The Tool Shed, and it was about sitting in a tool shed that's absolutely dark, except there's one beam of light coming in above a door. And it's a beam of light shining on the side wall, and that's really grabs your attention. Have you ever been in a room and you see a beam of light coming in? And do you know what the one thing that always grabs my attention when a beam of light comes into a room? What do you see floating around? Dust. Dust is everywhere. Dust. And I'm amazed at how much dust is in the air. Whenever you see a really bright beam of sunlight entering the room, you're looking at it and saying, what in the world, you're amazed at how much dust is in the air. And it explains why there's dust everywhere. I know Sherry came into my office this week, and she looked at my desk and she said, it's dusty. And I said, yeah, dust happens. It's there, and she said, well, we got to clean it, But, I've never been much one for dusting. I don't know. Some people dust, but you got to do it all the time. And you get rid of it and it comes back because there's all those particles floating everywhere. The other thing you notice besides the dust and the stream of sunlight is what it's shining upon. In this case, it was the wall, which had tools, and then lawn equipment, and the line would just slowly move up as the sun set in the afternoon. But then what C.S. Lewis says, the real mystery is, it's not looking at what the beam points upon. It's stepping out and walking and putting your eyes in the beam of light. And when you look out that little crack and sliver, what do you see? You see blue sky, and you see the sun shining in all of its brilliance. And he made the analogy is sometimes in the world in which we live, we see what the light is illuminating and what the light shows. But part of faith is stepping into the beam of light and looking at what causes it, the Creator, and looking at God. And my sermon this morning is addressed to Matt, but it's addressed to all of us, because really we're welcoming Matt, but we're giving him the big job. And the big job is working with young people. And you know what? You have to have a lot of energy. And Matt, you have a lot of energy, which is something you need with young people, because young people have a lot of energy. From little kids, just watching little kids running to the fountain this morning, to watching teenagers ready to stay up all night. And you know what? That takes a lot of energy. The last time I did a lock-in and stayed up all night was about 5 years ago, and I had a headache for 3 days afterwards. And I said, you know what? I can't do that anymore. It just gets a little bit long, your energy goes, once you pass 50, I don't know, your body doesn't want to stay up all night. Teenagers sometimes like to stay up all night. Maybe it's that Red Bull, I don't know, or Monster, or whatever they drink. But one of the challenges, and I have 3 passages I just want to talk about briefly. One of them is this passage from Matthew, where Jesus says, it's the conclusion of the Sermon on the Mount, the longest sermon of Jesus in all of Scripture. It's all of Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7. And Jesus is wrapping up this Sermon on the Mount, and he closes with these words, and he says, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. One of the challenges you're going to have is to teach young people and everybody you minister and work with is to build their house upon the rock, to build their faith and their lives upon Jesus, because it doesn't get washed away, it doesn't change. And the words of Jesus are simple, yet they're incredibly challenging. I reread the Sermon on the Mount, as working on this, when he says, these words of mine, and some of the things, and you go back, it starts out with the Beatitudes, but then in chapter 5 it says, you are to be the light of the world. A city on the hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp. And Jesus is challenging us. And that's one good thing about kids and youth. They want to make a difference. They have that in their heart. They want to make a difference. They want to be light for the world. They want to change the world for the better. And that's one of the challenges that Jesus gives us as the church and the people of God, is to make the world a better place, to be light for others. And he challenges us to do some things that are hard. You know, in the Sermon on the Mount, you read it, you come across the passage where Jesus talks about forgiveness, and you know what he says? He says, turn the other cheek. And that's hard. Because you know what happens when somebody hits you across the cheek? You know what your first response is? You get ready to clobber back. Not in the Bible so much, but you get ready to defend it. Your first response if somebody hits you across the cheek is not to turn the other cheek, but don't hit me again. Do you know the one powerful thing about that statement, turning the other cheek, is we as the people of God are ready to forgive when nobody expects forgiveness. And that's really the foundation of our faith in the church, is the forgiveness of the cross. Jesus forgave us, and he teaches the Lord's Prayer in the Sermon on the Mount about forgive as we have been forgiven. And we think about that. When we think about how we've been forgiven in Jesus, it's absolute in the forgiveness of the cross. Being able to turn the other cheek only happens when we consider how much we've been forgiven by Jesus. His amazing grace is what empowers us and enables us to turn the other cheek. To forgive as we have been forgiven. And Jesus says, do not worry. Jesus says all of these things. And reading the Sermon on the Mount, there's even one whole set of theology that says the Sermon on the Mount, it's too hard. You can't do it. It won't happen. But you know what? Jesus challenges us. Our forgiveness is 100% by the grace of the cross, but Jesus' standard of how we live our lives is, it's hard. It's perfection. But Jesus challenges us to strive for perfection. And as I read that verse, it says, hear these words of mine and put them into practice. Where sometimes all of us as the people of God fail is we hear the words of Jesus, but we don't live them out. We don't put them into practice. I remember a sermon I think I did for chapel. It was after C Camp. And C Camp is, maybe you're going to go this year. It's 7th graders go to the Keys. And the one thing they do a lot in the Keys, they do taxonomy. Do any of you know what taxonomy is? It's in biology where you talk about, try to remember, kingdom, phylum, class, order, genus, species. I think that's the 6 things of going in taxonomy. And when you go to C Camp, you're dissecting squids and you're saying, oh, this is kingdom this is phylum this is that, and all these things. And after about 3 days of it, you're starting to get, I remember it from back from biology a long, long time ago. And I remember doing a sermon with the kids and talking about taxonomy. I said, there's 10 frogs on a log. 5 decide to jump off. Now, do you remember the taxonomy of frogs? I can remember some. The kingdom is Animalia. They're animals. The phylum is Chordata, which means they have a backbone. And actually, we're Animalian. We have a backbone. Their class is Amphibia. They're amphibians. They go on land and water. And I can't remember the genus. And the species, there's 150 to maybe 500 different frogs. So then I fill the kids' mind with their taxonomy, and I ask the kids, 10 frogs are on the log, 5 decide to jump off the log, how many are left on the log? And you know what they answer? 5. Is that right, though? No. It's still 10. Deciding to jump off the log is not the same as jumping off the log, right? Jesus, in that verse, is saying, do you know what? You need to hear my words, but you need to put them into practice. Live them out. Deciding to follow Jesus is a lot different from following Jesus. A lot of times people will say, oh, I've decided to follow Jesus and I'm on the couch doing it. But faith, putting Jesus' words into practice, is living them out. Doing what Jesus did. And you know that's hard. For adults and for teenagers. Because Jesus sometimes challenges you to go to places you don't want to go. To forgive people you don't want to forgive. To love people you don't want to love. Because Jesus does. Do you know the other passages thinking about, and then Paul wrote to Titus. Paul had a lot of young pastors and people he equipped training. The most famous is Timothy, but he also had Titus. And Titus he left as a young pastor on this island of Crete. I always loved the island of Crete. That's one of the stops my wife and I went there on our honeymoon. But you know, one thing I remember in Crete, we went horseback riding on the beach. You know, does it sound romantic? You know, on your honeymoon? But her horse kept biting my horse, so we couldn't go within 50 feet of each other. There's a group of about a dozen, and her horse had to go near the front, and I had to go in the very back, because her horse hated my horse for some reason. But Crete, I always like, you know, Paul wrote to Titus, and you know, he started off, you know what, the people you're working with, it's going to be a challenge. In Titus, in verse 1, before it says that, it says, Cretans are always liars, evil brutes, and lazy gluttons. That's one of the most difficult verses when you think about it. You know, describing, your church, liars, evil brutes, and lazy gluttons. I wouldn't say that about you guys. I could say other things, but about all ourselves. And you know what? The one thing is, we don't do ministry because the people are perfect, and none of us are perfect. We all need the grace of God. And you know what? Teenagers have their own challenges. You know, I try to get it out of the kids. You know, teenagers, sometimes at certain ages, they're hormonally challenged, right? Their hormones are going up and down and all sorts of things. A lot of things nowadays, teenagers are sort of caught up in the phone situation. A lot of us are caught up in that phone and this information situation. You probably are a little bit too, right? Can you do a day without your phone?
Yeah.
All right. What's a good thing to challenge them is to give up their phones for Lent. And you know what? You want to hear kids scream and squeal? You ask a high schooler to give up their phone for the whole 40 days of Lent? It's impossible, they'll say. No, it's not. But Paul tells Titus, be an example in faith, in your actions. One thing you are, Matt, and you're going to do a very good job of being a role model. I've watched you and seen you in different situations. And that's one thing your challenge is as working with youth. And youth cut to the quick of it. You know what? They see if your actions don't line up with what you say, they'll dismiss you. But be an example. Live out your faith. Be genuine. One good thing is teenagers like to hear it like it is. Don't pull punches. And then God helps you. The one thing is when you're honest with kids, you know what? You realize all the more we stand and live by the grace and the cross of what Jesus does for us. The third Bible passage is from the very famous passage from Deuteronomy 6, and it's called the Great Shema. It's one of the daily recited prayers in Jewish society. And the Shema means hear. It means that's how you say hear or listen in Hebrew. And it's called the Great Shema because it starts out, Shema, listen. The Lord our God, the Lord is one. And it talks about impressing it upon your children By how you impress it upon your children, by talking about God when you're going to bed, when you're getting up in the morning, when you're walking down the road, when you're sitting down for dinner, wherever you are, God is a part of the conversation. God is a factor in everything you do. And that makes an impression. And another thing I think you're going to do a very good job, Matt, is making an impression. And then be yourself. Do you know, I was very happy this week. You know, we were talking about music earlier this week, and I said, you know, I like most all kinds of music except rap. And do you know what he likes best of all? Rap. And I said, that's good. Do you know why? You know, and I don't like, you know, there's a part of me that says, somebody at the Saturday night service said, rap is for people who can't sing. And then that's sort of a low blow, because I've tried rapping and it's hard. I have a version of Jesus Love Me that I rap and try to create verses, and it's hard, you know. And I do that with chapel and the little kids over in Building 1. But make an impression is by speaking from your heart, who you are, what moves you. And that makes an impression on kids. It's that being genuine. And I think God has blessed you with an incredible sense of personality and sense of going to who you are, and I'm very confident in, you know what, the kids, teenagers don't like to be called kids or young adults or whoever, respond to knowing that somebody's there and who just cares and who gives them as much time as they need and who promises to be there. And you know what, all of us need that. And especially the young. God has made it a priority and a mission to share and to do that. You know what, we're praying for you, and we want to bless you in the ministry, because you know what, we care about kids here. You know, the name of the church, Family of Christ, and you know, we have the ministries and the school and the child development center, because you know what, Jesus cares about kids. And so do we. And you know, our prayer is with you, Matt. And you know, I know I've been happy a lot of people have been helping with dinners and going on and doing that. But we welcome you and your family, Jen and your kids, and you know what, our prayers are with you. Are the Sunday school kids ready? You want to go check Terry to get them? Matt, you want to come up and introduce yourself? They're going to get the Sunday school. We're going to do the installation with all the kids around in a minute, but why don't you introduce yourself and say hello?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Connolly. I am from Minnesota. We moved down here on a hope and a prayer, and we are very pleased to be down here. I did most of my growing up in Minnesota. I have my entire family up there, not only my brothers and sisters, but my cousins, my grandparents. And so all together on my side, there's 50 of us when we get together at Christmas, and we all pack into my mom and dad's house. And if we stay there for 7 hours, I might get to talk to half of my family. We love being together, so coming down here was a big step in faith, and we were happy to do it. I'm married to Jen for 13 years almost, and we have 3 kids, Sean, Layla, and Quinn. They're all going here to school at Family of Christ. So far, they've enjoyed their first 3 days. It is very early school year for them. They don't normally go to school until Labor Day or just before Labor Day. So they had a very short summer. It was a little disappointing for them when we told them school started on August 10th. So.
Because I know they didn't get out to like the last week of June.
My son Sean didn't get out until the 11th of June. He didn't get out of school until the 11th of June. So he had only 2 months of summer.
No, this is Florida. We only have summer.
And I'm getting used to the weather. I really enjoy it. It hasn't been too hot for my Minnesota blood, so.
Wait.
We have summer last year from June, July, August, and September, and then sort of October is the first time you feel fall, and then it's beautiful with that. So, are they coming up? Matt, would you stand right there? We're going to get all the kids standing around you.
Yes, you want the video?
Okay. All of you gather around, the kids gather around, and sort of circle around. You can even go behind them a little bit if you want. So we're going to give that to Mr. Matt in a second. Here, we'll stand. Some of the older kids may read the Bible verse. Some of the younger kids, you just give the card to them afterwards. Come on up here. If you have a Bible verse on it, can you read it? Older ones would have it. Come on. All right. Some of you get behind. Let some of you go stand behind him, and we're going to say a prayer for him. All right, one on that side. All right, Mr. Matt. We welcome you to the family of Christ, and I ask you now you can answer yes with the help of God. Will you love these children, the teenagers, the young adults, every age here at Family of Christ as you serve in ministry here?
Yes, with the help of God.
Will you teach the whole counsel of God? We don't teach our wisdom, but we teach the wisdom of Jesus. We build our ministry upon the words and the practices that Jesus taught. Will you be faithful to the Word of God as we understand it in the Lutheran Church? Say it.
Yes, with the help of God.
Will you be faithful? Will you pray for these children as you pray for your own kids? Will you love them as Jesus loved them and care for them now and always?
Yes, with the help of God.
Do any of you want to say a Bible verse? Okay, we'll start here. All right, and who would you like to read one? One.
Therefore, go and make
Disciples.
descendants and of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and you, the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have committed to you, and surely I am with you always and ever to the very end of the day.
All right. Anybody else want to read? Not no thanks. You want to read? You already gave me your card. Well, let's say a prayer. All right. Dear Jesus, we welcome Matt and his family, and Lord, we pray for blessings upon him. Lord, may your words come out of his mouth. May your love be evident in all that he does. And may we, as your people, follow, proclaiming your name to every generation. And we now install Matt in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. We welcome Matt.